Welcome to Tagged Beyond the Award, the podcast that celebrates innovation, excellence, and leadership. Each episode dives into inspiring stories behind the nominees and winners of the TAG Awards, uncovering the breakthroughs, challenges, and triumphs that define their journey. Whether it's cutting-edge technology, transformative products, or visionary leadership, we're here to explore what it means to stand out and shape the future of your industry. Let's go beyond the award and into the heart of innovation. Here's your host, Justin Starbird.
Welcome to Tagged Beyond the Awards. My name is Justin Starbird. This is exciting because we get to dive deep into what makes innovation in the MedTech space exciting. And today we get to welcome old friend, colleague, and expert in medical device space, Robert Austring. Robert, great to have you today.
Well, thanks for having me, Justin. I'm really looking forward to being part of the TAG process and where this can lead the potential awardees and nominees and the benefits to them. I'm really excited about this opportunity to be involved in that process.
Well, we're happy to have you. You were somebody that we sought out to join this program and to lend your expertise and experience to the nominees to make the best group of finalists and winners possible. So it's with a lot of excitement. I mean, you and I get to do these often. You know, we've done it for some of your old projects, some of the TAG projects. So this should be a lot of fun. I look forward to leaning on that experience. But for those that aren't as familiar with your successes so far in your career, why don't you talk a little bit about what you've been up to the last 45 years or so?
Consider myself very fortunate to have been involved in this industry for 45 plus years. There's nothing like the sense of accomplishment that you get when you're helping patients improve the quality of life. I've gotten letters over the years, and it brings tears to your eyes when you recognize the difficulties and the challenges. This is not a straightforward process to bring a product from concept through commercialization, but the challenges that you face are well worth it when you learn about how well it's benefited the end user, the not just the surgeon. I've gotten tremendous feedback from surgeons as much as patients. And so, again, fortunate to be involved in this and excited with an opportunity to give back and share those experiences, evaluate the technologies coming forward, and even use those to benefit these nominees, whether they win or not, in providing some guidance and some insight into what makes it successful. What do they need to be prepared for? So really excited about this opportunity. I've led class 1, 2, and 3 devices, that's non-implantables through implantables, over this 45 years. I have a very broad base of experience across product development, research, as well as operations, and ultimately sales and marketing. And so, I think I can bring some unique perspectives in evaluating these nominees, as well as, again, providing insights and guidance.
Yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate to know you. I think we're going on almost 10 years now of working together and friendship, and to be a part of that experience and see your expertise highlighted on a daily basis has been really neat to see. And thinking about the awards and the mission to recognize and honor innovation, what is your connection to the awards? Like, why did you say yes to becoming a judge?
Well, I was involved with the Technical Excellence Awards through Informa /MD&M for many years. And I just saw the value that provided nominees, as well as the award winners. The award winners get the, what is it? I don't know. They get, they get all of the juice, but the benefit to the nominees as well, and just the opportunity to create and to be able to leverage that experience and provide that insight that, I like to use the old billboard, but I mean, it gives them a forum in which to express the value of their product or the value of their service. And so it really, and seeing that go away, Informa stopped doing that. And I think it's missing out there. I think, while it's not necessarily a big motivator, it certainly provides another sense of accomplishment and an opportunity to really tout your expertise and tout your product and what it can provide for the end user and the patient. So I really am looking forward to that opportunity again.
Yeah. I mean, those are great points. The third party validation and being able to get feedback from judges based on its efficacy or just design, human fact. I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about with that. Thinking about the awards themselves and what your experience, you mentioned sales and marketing as being part of the hat that you wore previously. When you win an award or you're nominated for an award, what does that do for, the sales and marketing element?
It gives you, ammunition, if you will. I mean, it really creates an opportunity to get your name out there, get the company's name out there. And whether that's, again, a service-based or a product-based, it gives you a forum to really get up on the mountain and present to the world. It's a global opportunity to provide that insight into who you are, what you do, and there's nothing like it. I mean, when we leverage some of that opportunities in the past through the dissemination of that information via the internet, I mean, the opportunity to get the leads that came in, to get the acknowledgement and recognition that came along with that for use of the products. Again, surgeons reaching out. I mean, the forum to be able to utilize the internet and search engines effectively it's amazing compared to how we used to have to market products back in the old days. Now
Yeah.
it's just, oh God. I remember handing out cards and printing out brochures and, just trying to get the information out. And today, you guys at TAG have really done such a great job at maximizing this exposure. It's just a great forum.
Yeah. We've been fortunate to have some great partnerships along the way too. One of the things for awards, from our experience is that yes, you get some, a little bit of bump from a press release and those sorts of things, but then, the content that's created with it as well, the editorial information that can come out, the non-biased elements that you get, those are all so helpful in putting together articles, adding it to the quote box or unboxing experience for somebody to open the product, or the lives that are saved because a surgeon learned about the device and are able to be more efficient and better. I think those are all things that are so exciting about this.
Yeah. The credibility and what it can spread to. I mean, it just branches off into so many different opportunities. I mean, it allows you an opportunity to get platform speakers to speak about your product, and that can turn into even more content. So it just branches out. It's just amazing where it can go.
Yeah. Thinking about, the responsibility that you'll have in judging and evaluating some of the criteria. Of course, some of that is going to be quite rigorous. It hasn't even been unveiled yet. So this is still, something that's just amongst the organizers like us and the judges like you. Talk about, what you're going to be looking for in nominees. What sticks out in a good nomination?
Well, I think it's multifactorial. And so, obviously innovation is a key component of this. But it's not just innovation. It's also, in many cases, it's utilizing maybe existing technology in a different way. But what's really important is the real world effects on the end user. I mean, if it makes a surgical procedure easier, for the surgeon to be successful, that's huge. Or it obviously provides advanced outcomes for the patients. I mean, it's amazing where this technology has gone, and what's happening for the patient. I've been through a procedure within the last year that was just unheard of 20 years ago, and it has just radically improved the quality of my life. And I've got another one coming up here in about 3 weeks that I'm really excited about. That's going to help my mobility return to some level of normalcy. So, to see where the innovation goes is one thing. To see the application of technology is another one. To see how the effects on the end user, patient outcomes, efficacy. We have to look at the whole offering relative to the improvements and what it brings forward. And those things are weighted too. Some things are going to have more value than others, but they all have to be looked at holistically.
Sure. What would you say, as you're talking about the holistic nature of evaluating a nomination, what would you say to those that would argue that, hey, this is an inaugural year, we're going to wait to see what happens until next year? Why would somebody want to participate now? What are you thinking in terms of, a baseline to compare against?
It's an interesting question, and I almost got to say, why wouldn't you?
Right.
What are the reasons you wouldn't? Again, the opportunity to get the accomplishment out into a broader audience, the returns on that are huge. This is a minimal expense associated with the return on that investment. Marketing dollars are somewhat limited. You want to see ROI, and ROI is always difficult, but it's become a lot more easy. It's easier today to quantify that return through the use of the search tools, through the use of managing the results that are coming forward through the outreach. And again, why wouldn't you leverage that? And get your name out there, get that billboard lit up, and really then evaluate the ROI. I mean, to me, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah. I love how you're able to talk about, experiences that you had as you're coming up through, in the different roles that you've held over the course of your career. And then today you're still on the cutting edge of technology, moving, concepts to commercialization through some of your consulting now. You're formerly a CEO. What would you say from your perspective are some of the more exciting innovations that are coming out that you're looking forward to seeing as nominees?
Well, you can't talk about innovation these days without mentioning artificial intelligence. AI is doing some amazing things. I mean, it's impossible to keep up with the applications. It really is. But, as I think about AI, there's a couple of areas that I think really provide some immediate benefit. And one of them is leveling out the playing field for surgeons. Surgeons, you have the high level, the top surgeons, and then you're going to have your average surgeons, and they're all effective. This isn't a slight of the surgeons, but anything that we can do to continually improve and bring the average surgeon's skill set up to advanced levels only benefits the patient and the outcome. And so, that's one area that I think we're going to really see a benefit using AI, is to really close the gap between average and advanced. The second thing is the information. It's incredible, the information that can be collected and then evaluated and provided back as feedback to the surgeon. is incredible. What's happening today? I've been studying up on these on knee replacement surgery, and what they're doing with the artificial intelligence and assessing all of the data to provide that as feedback to the surgeon so that he can optimize his procedure. It's just incredible to me. So AI, to me is one of the most significant innovations that's happening, and frankly, that's happened over, I don't know, 50 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. It is incredible to see, the advancement and how quickly, new technology is coming into play, and then what we can do with that technology. We have a client now that's doing some imaging stuff, and through those procedures, like your knee replacement, for example, they're able to evaluate, blood cells and image the tissue to see if there's anything cancerous or precursors for other things, all while the surgeon's doing the initial job, which is knee replacement, for example. It's pretty incredible. Is that something that you're seeing as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sitting here thinking about where it can go. So I just got, I went into left field here.
Yeah.
I was thinking about just the things that are going to happen, as you look at the body, Justin, and you think about the clinical procedures that are happening. I mean, you take everything from the neck down. It's amazing how far it's all advanced. But if you start to think about the spine and spinal surgery, and you start to think about the brain and where those are the things that haven't advanced as far yet, and for good reason. But I really see that as the next step in this process, where we're really going to see advancements in how we manage spinal repair and even preventative issues associated with the spine. And then if we start to think about the brain and where we can take that, it's an exciting time. I'm just so impressed with some of the individuals I meet. I just can't believe how much they understand what's happening and where it's going, and I think back when I was starting out, we were clueless compared to where these guys are today. It's just incredible.
Yeah. I love that you bring that up, because leadership is such an important part of innovation. It's such an important part of implementing a strategy that allows technology to advance to help solve problems that most people don't even know exist. And I think that's something that we're also going to be evaluating as some individuals, both leading in healthcare and then leading in MedTech, of course. When you think of leadership, what sort of key qualities make up successful leaders, and specifically in and around MedTech?
Well, I don't care what industry it's in, but the ability to listen and take the information in, I think, is key. A lot of people climb the ladder and they reach a point, and they frankly think they've got it all figured out, and they forget the key skill here, which is listening. And so I think a key leader has to listen, and then they have to take that information and leverage that with their experience and their expertise in order to optimize the situation for each and every situation. And so, as an example, to sit back and listen to what's happening within product development, and then translate that into solutions that can assist the individuals that are developing the products, whether that's tools or education, whatever it is. But the ability to then listen and then translate that into solutions, to me, is critical as a leader. You're basically looking to provide, your contribution is to helping the team, the individuals in the team, truly continue to advance and become more effective and become more efficient. And anything you can do to help them do that is critical. And it's not just sitting there contemplating, it's listening, getting the feedback, and then targeting that back to those individuals or the team, whether that's tools or education. But to me, that is such a key to this whole process.
Yeah, I think, you can quickly see when an organization has the right leadership in place because it's like they're pouring gasoline on a fire and they're, moving things from, one place to another very, very quickly. Or, when there are challenges that come up, there are thoughtful solutions that are in place because the best idea wins. It's not necessarily about bruising somebody's ego. And, I think that's so important. Like you mentioned, being a great listener.
I mean, you want to unleash the beast. There, there are obviously a number of ways to manage, but if you can unleash them and provide them that avenues of creativity, they're going to be so much more effective. If you're dominating and giving them the answers, basically you end up trying to kick the horse to get it to move, where, really, I want to be pulling back on the reins. I want them just going, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, lighting the fire. It's amazing to see when teams feel empowered and really can then leverage that empowerment to be creative, and whether that's in design or execution, it's an amazing thing to see.
Often an award helps galvanize the team and reward them for their hard work. It's an opportunity to say thank you. It's an opportunity to say, "Hey, look, not am I just saying that you're doing a great job, but others think that too." What do you see in terms of morale when a team like that wins an award?
Well, certainly it's we can create the analogy to sports, and it's got to be recognized as the team. And while there's an award for a past accomplishment, my expectation is that they use that going forward. So it's while it's a past accomplishment, it is encouraging. It's encouraging that continued advancement and leveraging that advancement to get better even and improve, what you're doing, how you're doing it. So feeling the win as a team is great, but you know what? We want to run it back. We want to do it again and again. And that's really the fire that it lights in my mind is, look, we were successful. We could have done some things better. Let's do it again. Let's take that knowledge that we've learned, the lessons that we've learned, and continue to advance it. And so, it almost, like you said, the gasoline in the fire. I mean, it reinforces that and provides them now an avenue to continue to pursue that going forward.
Yeah. Hey, I love that, it does move you forward so quickly. But, thinking about the challenges in MedTech, there are some issues there in terms of getting a device to market. And this is an area where you had a lot of expertise, was getting over that hump and overcoming those challenges. Talk a little bit about the specific issues that hinder, MedTech from more innovation, and then we'll get into some opportunities.
Yeah. Well, the challenges with MedTech are multiple. I still have hair, but it's gray. It's been gray a long time. Um, one of the biggest challenges, and it all comes back to what I'm going to refer to as planning. But some of the biggest challenges, especially right now, the last couple of years, has been funding. Funding. Without funding, you don't go anywhere. And so obviously you have to look at funding as a primary consideration and how are we going to get funded. And everybody understands that, but many times what isn't understood is what are the levels of funding that we require. And this comes back to the planning aspect and making sure that you're educated on what the requirements are. I mean, it starts with things as simple as, what is the reimbursement for this medical procedure? What is the reimbursement for the product you're designing, as an example? And taking that and setting that as a benchmark, because you can't design a product without considering that cost aspect. Bottom line, some of the largest companies in the world design some beautiful products, but it turns out they couldn't manufacture those profitably because there's a ceiling because of that reimbursement. And so, the product ends up dying. So understanding that constraint and then translating that back to this planning. To the very first thing you want to do is understand, what do we have to do to bring this thing through the regulatory process? What do we have to do? What are the testing requirements? How do we transition this from a napkin, from a sketch, all the way through to commercialization? And thinking about this, I mean, the FDA provides us guidance on the phases of development. ISO 1345 provides us guidance on the phases of development. In my mind, one of the most important phases is that planning phase, and the business plan is part of that. And so, being able to understand and lay out the development strategy through commercialization begins to help you understand what the funding requirements are. Again, I've seen this where people go in and say, "Oh, we need $1 million." And they've just pulled that number out of thin air instead of sitting back and laying out what the requirements are. And that's one of the early things that I do with my clients is we sit down and strategize and look at all of the factors so they can go out and get the level of funding. The worst thing you can do is get this thing kicked off and run out of money. And it's not easy to fundraise, and it takes time. And so, you want to be prepared for that. And when you go in to present to PE groups or family companies or whoever you're going to present to secure funding, laying out that full strategy and showing how well thought out it is only adds to your credibility, and that only adds ultimately to securing that funding. And so, that is a big challenge, is the funding, but it all interrelates, Justin. It all interrelates to the regulatory challenges that you face, and understanding those is critical to this thing being successful. So, I could go on for hours about the challenges, but really it simply comes down to making sure you get your funding, defining your strategies, and understanding each and every one of the constraints that you're dealing with to be successful.
Yeah.
The development is managing forks in the road. You lay out a plan, but every week, every day, every month, there's a decision point that says, do we go right or do we go left, or we continue straight ahead? And so, being in front of that really is critical to bringing a product to market.
One of the criteria for a nomination is that it's got to be cleared by the FDA or in process of being done so that it's more a little bit further on than, of course, a napkin sketch. But that said, an award can also help bring those funding, bring that funding to you, because it says, hey, this is, it's met certain criteria, or it's, a beautiful design, or, it solves an issue or a concern that, as I mentioned earlier, many don't even realize folks wrestle with, right? And so that's what makes MedTech so exciting. But you also see other opportunities in MedTech. Let's talk a little bit about where you see some of the biggest opportunities going forward.
There's the challenges with MedTech. There are so many constraints. The bureaucracy, the challenges with funding is one thing, and there's so many things that you can't control. That really are frustrating. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas out there, and the ability to facilitate bringing those forward needs to happen. We need to look at ways to allow that to come forth, and I'm seeing that more so these days than used to be. Universities are providing these programs. And then allowing these concepts to be licensed and actually advance to development. And that is certainly one way. I'd like to see more funding, I hate to say through the government, but I'd like to see more done to encourage this advancement of innovation and provide funding. We talk about the SBA loans. Oh my God, don't even go down that. But to provide that funding and to allow for this advancement. There were some programs in the past that attempted to do this, but I'd like to see more done in that, in terms of an opportunity to really provide the opportunity for these products to at least come through a screening process, at least be evaluated. I mean, there are a lot of abstract ideas that won't go anywhere, but you know what? There are some out there that will. And so what do we need to do to encourage that, to provide that avenue of opportunity?
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned, you know, the opportunity that exists to get new funding opportunities, or to bring new money on to support a product to move it forward. That is usually undertaken by somebody with a lot of energy, entrepreneurs that are just getting started, or business leaders within larger organizations that are trying to make a name for themselves. What advice would you give some of those folks that, are either working within an institutional guideline, like a large Fortune 100, or just have an idea because a family member experienced an issue, and now, they have some thoughts on how to accomplish it better. Where do you see opportunities for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Well, the first thing is having an idea for a product is actually kind of the easy part. Bringing it forward is the challenge. And this comes back to, for one, you need patience, you need tolerance. But my encouragement is, don't go out of the gate before you're ready to go out of the gate. And, it's not ready, shoot, aim. You need to spend the time and educate yourself on the process and on the challenges you're going to face. Again, to get in front of a funding group, an institution, an individual, a PE, whatever it is, the product is part of the differentiator, but what else differentiates you from everyone else that's asking for money? And for you to be able to differentiate yourself, you need to be educated. And so understanding the clinical space, understanding that application, it is obviously a big part of that. Being able to tout the benefit of the product. I mean, that's what everybody does. But how do I get from here to there, and being able to describe that and outline that strategy? That's one of those things that gets you over the hump. It actually gives you a leg up on others that are out there trying to solicit for funds. If you can lay out not only the benefits of the product, but how you're going to get there and what the requirements are to do that, that goes over so much further than somebody just come in and say, I had this great product, here, drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, as a smart business guy that's going to invest in you, I want to make sure that you know what you're doing and where you're going and how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
We know that even the best laid plan is not going to become the end game, but being able to lay out that plan and then manage that plan, that to me is a differentiator.
Yeah, I agree. It's so exciting to have the opportunity to look at these different nominations come in, hear from entrepreneurs, read about their story, see, their novel concepts. What are you most excited about? We're recording this podcast at end 2024. We're going to kick off 2025 announcing the TAG Awards. What are you most looking forward to?
In 2025?
Yeah.
Well, I think funding is starting to free up. And so I'm excited for that. In fact, I know this quarter more funds have been released, and I believe that's going to continue. So I'm truly excited about that. I want to come back to one thing that you touched on earlier around the award and the timing of this award. And the timing really is associated with a regulatory milestone. And that's important that they've done that, because it demonstrates that they've done the testing to meet the efficacy requirements of the product. But something else that has to be considered here, I mean, what's the next step? And so commercialization is a challenge that has to be dealt with and understood, and early on understood. What is your exit strategy? It's one of the first questions I asked back in that initial planning phase we talked about. What is your exit strategy? Do you want to just sell this? Do you want to put a company together? How do you want to do that? And so, considering that, I think is an important factor. And so winning this award only helps facilitate getting additional funding to support commercialization. And I think that's really an important factor that has to be thought about when you're thinking about whether or not you want to be involved in this. What good is an award if I'm already through my regulatory process? Well, there's not only for next generations, but supporting your existing moving forward in terms of commercialization. The opportunities in 2025, I think beyond the funding, it's where does the innovation go? Again, it comes back to what is AI going to do for us? It's incredible where it's going. And some of the advancements I'm seeing today, longevity, we're living far longer than our body parts are wearing out, man. And so, to be able to go in and get an overhaul, which is kind of where I'm at, is so exciting. And, who knows where it ends up, but
Right.
just the continued advancement of the technology, it's so exciting. I can't believe where we're at in terms of our ability to reinvigorate the body. And I'm looking forward to what we're going to do, be able to reinvigorate the mind. And oh, by the way, what's the question?
Right. What do you there's so much to be excited for. I'm with you.
There is.
I mean, that's I think one of the cool things about, it's almost like a race to see what's next, right? I mean, that's and enjoy it.
Yeah. And I love the fact that universities really are the programs now, the biomedical programs, bioengineering programs, and getting into the lab and guys putting together the thesis and really bringing those concepts forward is huge. I mean, it has enabled a lot of innovation that's happening beyond just the stuff that happens, in the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. So I'm really excited about what's coming up through the universities. Getting them off of that and out of that university, it still is a challenge, but it's really creating some opportunities that I'm looking forward to.
Well, that's exciting. Well, and happy to hear. It's awesome to have you on as the first judge of the inaugural TAG Awards. I'm so thankful to call you a friend and now a colleague and now a judge of the TAG Awards, Robert Austring.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to where this takes us.
Likewise. So we'll have all of your contact information down below in this podcast, and so exciting to hear from you and see what's coming next. For those of you listening today, on behalf of my guest, Robert Austring, you've been listening to Tagged.
On behalf of our guest today and host Justin Starbird, thank you for listening to Tagged Beyond the Award. We hope you've been inspired by the stories of innovation and leadership shared today. Don't forget to subscribe and join us for more incredible journeys behind the breakthroughs. If you or someone you know is leading the way in innovation, visit tagawards.co to learn more about how to get involved. Until next time, stay driven, keep innovating, and keep reaching for excellence.